Have you ever wondered why some drug candidates succeed while thousands of others fail, despite showing promising biological activity? In drug discovery, effectiveness alone is not enough. A compound must be able to reach its target within the human body, and that challenge is governed by a concept known as drug likeness. One of the most influential frameworks used to evaluate this is Lipinski's Rule of Five, a set of simple yet powerful guidelines that transformed how scientists design orally active drugs. In this video, we will break down the scientific principles behind these rules, explore their limitations, and understand how modern drug design is evolving beyond them. In drug discovery, one of the fundamental challenges is identifying compounds that can successfully function as oral drugs. This concept is referred to as drug likeness. Lipinski's Rule of Five serves as a widely accepted guideline to evaluate whether a compound possesses the physicochemical properties necessary for oral bioavailability. In this presentation, we will explore how these rules help decode drug likeness and guide medicinal chemists in designing effective therapeutic molecules. So to set the stage, let's begin with the central challenge of oral drug delivery. When a drug is taken orally, it must successfully navigate a series of biological barriers before it can exert any effect. First, it must dissolve in the aqueous environment of the gastrointestinal tract. Then, it must cross the lipid-rich intestinal membrane. Finally, it must survive metabolism in the liver, where enzymes may inactivate it before it ever reaches systemic circulation. This creates a fundamental conflict. The molecule must be sufficiently water-soluble to dissolve, yet lipophilic enough to cross membranes, and stable enough to resist metabolism. This delicate balance is not easy to achieve, and this difficulty is exactly what motivated the development of the Rule of Five. Now, to understand why this issue became so critical, we need to look briefly at how drug discovery changed in the 1990s. The emergence of high-throughput screening dramatically accelerated drug discovery. For the first time, researchers could synthesize and test hundreds of thousands of chemical compounds against biological targets in a matter of days. Before this shift, drug discovery was a much slower and more deliberate process. Chemists typically designed and evaluated compounds one at a time, relying heavily on experience and biological understanding. While this was revolutionary, it introduced a new issue. Many of the hits identified were large and highly lipophilic. These properties improved binding in isolated assays, but made the compounds unsuitable in real biological systems. As a result, companies ended up with many potent compounds that failed in clinical trials due to poor solubility or permeability. The pharmaceutical research field faced a growing disconnect between potency and developability. At this point, it's essential to distinguish between pharmacodynamics and pharmacokinetics. Pharmacodynamics focuses on how well a drug binds to its target. High-throughput screening excels here. It finds molecules with strong binding affinity. However, optimizing binding often increases molecular size and lipophilicity. In contrast, pharmacokinetics deals with how the body handles the drug, its absorption, distribution, and metabolism. And here lies the challenge. The same features that improve binding can hinder a drug's ability to reach its target. So a molecule may be highly potent in vitro but completely ineffective in vivo if it cannot be absorbed. This disconnect is exactly what Lipinski's Rule of Five was designed to address, by introducing an early filter for pharmacokinetic feasibility. So how was this rule developed? Working at Pfizer in the mid-1990s, Christopher Lipinski didn't invent the rule from first principles. He discovered it by looking backward at what had already succeeded. He analyzed a dataset of 2,245 compounds that had reached Phase 2 clinical trials, drugs that had already passed absorption barriers in the real world. Lipinski observed that most of these successfully administered drugs shared a very narrow range of physicochemical properties. From this observation, the Rule of Five was formulated. In other words, it's not a theoretical model. It's an empirical summary of what has already worked in real biological systems. This makes it a practical and powerful tool for guiding early drug design. Now let's look at the rule itself. Lipinski's rule was named the Rule of Five because, remarkably, all the cutoff values are either 5 or a multiple of 5. It consists of 4 simple criteria. Molecular weight should be below 500 Daltons. Lipophilicity, measured as log P, should be below 5. Hydrogen bond donors should not exceed 5, and hydrogen bond acceptors should not exceed 10. Each of these parameters reflects a specific biological constraint related to absorption and permeability. Together, they define what is often called drug likeness. Importantly, these properties can be calculated instantly, making the rule extremely useful in early drug design. Each parameter in the Rule of Five corresponds to a specific physical or biological limitation. If a molecule is too large, it struggles to pass through membranes. If it has too many hydrogen bonding groups, it becomes too polar and strongly interacts with water, making membrane entry difficult. On the other hand, if it is too lipophilic, it may fail to dissolve in the first place. So the rule essentially defines three failure modes: too large, too polar, or too lipophilic. Staying within limits helps avoid these problems. Let's take a closer look at molecular weight. Larger molecules diffuse more slowly and encounter greater resistance when crossing lipid membranes. Additionally, increasing molecular size often introduces either more polar groups or more lipophilic groups, which can negatively affect other properties. So controlling molecular weight is not just about size. It helps maintain balance across multiple parameters simultaneously. This idea of balance becomes even more apparent when we consider lipophilicity. Lipophilicity illustrates a classic balance problem. If a molecule is too hydrophilic, it cannot enter the membrane. If it is too lipophilic, it may not dissolve in the gastrointestinal tract and may also be rapidly metabolized. This creates an optimal range, where the molecule can both dissolve in aqueous environments and permeate lipid membranes. This balance is exactly what the log-P criterion is designed to capture. A similar balance applies to hydrogen bonding. In aqueous environments, polar molecules form a hydration shell through hydrogen bonding with water. Before crossing a membrane, this shell must be removed, which requires energy. As the number of hydrogen bonding groups increases, this energy cost becomes higher. Beyond a certain point, membrane permeation becomes energetically unfavorable. This explains why limits on hydrogen bond donors and acceptors are critical for good absorption. Now let's connect these molecular properties to human physiology. Dissolution in the gut depends largely on molecular weight and lipophilicity. Membrane permeability is influenced by polarity and hydrogen bonding, and metabolic stability is strongly linked to lipophilicity. So each part of the rule corresponds to a real physiological challenge encountered by the drug. At this point, it's important to clarify how Lipinski's Rule of Five is actually applied in practice. Rather than functioning as a strict pass-or-fail filter, the rule is fundamentally probabilistic. In other words, a compound may violate one criterion and still have acceptable bioavailability. However, violating two or more criteria significantly increases the risk of failure. This flexibility reflects the complexity of biological systems. Therefore, the Rule of Five should not be interpreted as an absolute barrier, but rather as a risk-guiding framework that helps prioritize promising drug candidates. Building on this idea, the key question becomes, why does a violation not always lead to clinical failure in drug development? The answer lies in how drug absorption is actually governed in the body. This is explained by what we call the pharmacokinetic triad. Effective oral drug absorption relies on balancing three interdependent parameters: solubility, permeability, and potency, collectively known as the pharmacokinetic triad. Solubility is about how well the drug dissolves in the fluids of the gastrointestinal tract. Permeability refers to how easily it crosses biological membranes. And potency tells us how much drug is needed to produce the desired effect. Now, this is important. These properties are interconnected. Improving one property often compromises another. For instance, increasing lipophilicity may enhance permeability, but reduce solubility. Importantly, these properties can partially compensate for each other. High potency requires only a small dose, which reduces the burden on solubility and permeability. Therefore, successful drug design focuses on optimization rather than maximization, aiming to achieve the best overall balance for adequate systemic exposure and therapeutic efficacy. A classic example of the pharmacokinetic triad is azithromycin. Despite being one of the most widely used oral antibiotics, it clearly violates the Rule of Five. It has a high molecular weight, 749 daltons, and exceeds the hydrogen bond acceptor limit, suggesting poor membrane permeability, which is indeed the case. However, its success as an oral drug is explained by its exceptionally high aqueous solubility, approximately 50 milligrams per milliliter. It dissolves in a large amount in the gastrointestinal tract, generating a strong concentration gradient across the intestinal membrane. Even though only a small fraction of the drug permeates at a time, The large, dissolved quantity ensures that enough drug is absorbed to reach therapeutic levels. This case clearly demonstrates how poor permeability of a drug is compensated by its high aqueous solubility. Interestingly, strict adherence to predictive rules like Lipinski's has significantly improved pharmacokinetic profiles and drug development success rates across different therapeutic areas. More importantly, many drug candidates failed late in development due to poor pharmacokinetics. But when researchers began applying these guidelines early, survival rates improved across multiple therapeutic areas. This is why the Rule of Five has had such a major impact, not just scientifically, but economically as well. However, we need to be careful not to overinterpret these rules. It helps predict whether a drug can reach its target, but it does not guarantee therapeutic efficacy. It provides no information about target binding, selectivity, or toxicity. So while it is a powerful screening tool, it must always be used alongside pharmacodynamic considerations. This naturally leads us to examine its limitations more closely. Now let's talk about the limitations of Lipinski's Rule of Five. First, it does not account for active transport mechanisms. Some drugs rely on transport proteins rather than passive diffusion. Second, it provides no insight into pharmacological activity, so it cannot predict efficacy. Third, it doesn't address toxicity, which is a major reason for drug failure. And finally, these rules are mainly applicable to orally administered drugs, not injectables or other delivery routes. So while useful, these rules are not a complete picture. In fact, many drugs bypass these limitations through active transport. Instead of diffusing across membranes, they use specialized transport proteins, almost like hitching a ride into the cell. This is sometimes referred to as a membrane Trojan horse strategy. The molecule mimics a natural substrate, allowing it to be transported efficiently despite violating traditional rules. Another fascinating concept is that of structural chameleons. These are molecules that can change their conformation depending on the environment. In aqueous conditions, they may expose polar groups to remain soluble, but in lipid environments, they can fold in a way that hides polarity and enhances permeability. Now, this is particularly important for large molecules like macrocycles. Despite appearing too polar on paper, they can still cross membranes effectively. So how do medicinal chemists intentionally bypass these rules? There are several strategies. For example, the prodrug strategy, where the polar groups that violates Rule of Five are masked to improve membrane permeability, then releases the active drug after metabolism. In the CNS agents, CNS drugs are designed with higher lipophilicity and lower molecular weights than Rule of Five cutoffs to pass blood-brain barrier. Macromolecules and natural products exploit specific transport systems or conformational flexibility to access their therapeutic targets. Recent advances in medicinal chemistry have expanded beyond the traditional Rule of Five. Lipinski's Rule of Five focused mainly on simple, two-dimensional properties like molecular weight, lipophilicity, and hydrogen bond donors and acceptors. Now, this is important. While Lipinski's rule was revolutionary, it was a starting point rather than a complete solution. To refine this approach, the Gauss filter, published 1999, just 2 years after Lipinski's landmark paper, introduced important refinements by establishing upper and lower limits of the drug-like properties of Lipinski, in addition to the molar refractivity and total atom count as additional refinement parameters. This progression continued with the Weber's rule in 2002, which represents a more fundamental paradigm shift. Rather than focusing on two-dimensional descriptors, Weber and colleagues identified two three-dimensional descriptors that were strongly predictive of oral bioavailability in rat studies. The first is the number of rotatable bonds, and the second is polar surface area. The evolution from Lipinski to Gauss to Weber represents a progression from simple two-dimensional atom counting toward sophisticated three-dimensional descriptors, which reflects a deeper understanding of drug absorption and improving the prediction of drug likeness. Building on our discussion of Lipinski and related rules, let's now step earlier in the drug discovery pipeline, before we even reach a drug-like molecule. In early-stage drug discovery, researchers often work with lead compounds, which are smaller and simpler than final drug candidates. To guide this phase, the rule of three is commonly applied. This rule suggests that lead-like compounds should have a molecular weight below 300 Daltons, a log p-value below 3, and no more than 3 hydrogen bond donors and acceptors. These stricter criteria allow room for structural optimization, as chemical modifications during drug development typically increase molecular size and complexity. By starting with lead-like molecules that comply with the rule of three, medicinal chemists can systematically optimize potency, selectivity, and pharmacokinetic properties while remaining within the boundaries of Lipinski's Rule of Five. The beyond Rule of Five frontier. Traditionally, drug targets were enzymes or receptors with deep, well-defined pockets. Small molecules, typically under 500 Daltons, could fit neatly into these pockets and achieve strong binding. But modern drug discovery is pushing into new territory, especially protein-protein interactions. Now, notice the difference here. These targets often have large, flat, and featureless surfaces. There's no deep pocket to lock into, and that creates a problem. Small molecules simply don't have enough contact area to bind effectively. This is why, in many of these cases, the Rule of Five starts to break down. To achieve sufficient binding affinity, we often need larger molecules, sometimes well above 500 Daltons. This space is what we call the beyond Rule of Five. For example, molecular weight can increase significantly, sometimes approaching 1,000 Daltons. At the same time, lipophilicity must be carefully balanced, even for larger molecules, to maintain a balance between membrane permeability and aqueous solubility. And here's a key insight. One of the most critical factors is not just the total number of hydrogen bond donors, but how many of them are exposed to the solvent. In other words, if hydrogen bond donors are internally shielded through intramolecular interactions, they may not penalize permeability as much. But if they are exposed, they can significantly reduce the molecule's ability to cross membranes. Successful drug design in this space depends on carefully balancing size, flexibility, polarity, and molecular shielding to achieve what once seemed impossible, targeting the undruggable. Now, let's bring everything together with what's called the dual optimization paradigm, a more holistic way of thinking about drug design. When scientists design a drug, they're not just trying to make a molecule that binds tightly to its target. That's only half the story. On one side, we focus on target binding. This is what we call the structure-activity relationship, or SAR. Here, we tweak the chemical structure to improve how well the drug interacts with its biological target, like an enzyme or receptor. The goal is strong, specific binding. Think of it like designing the perfect key for a lock. And this process is often guided by something called ligand efficiency, which helps us get the most binding power from the smallest, most efficient molecule. But here's the catch. Binding alone is not enough. On the other side, we have barrier permeation, which falls under structure-property relationships, or SPR. This is all about whether the drug can actually reach its target inside the body. A molecule might bind perfectly in a test tube, but if it can't cross biological barriers, like cell membranes, or if it's poorly absorbed or rapidly eliminated, it simply won't work as a drug. This is where concepts like ADME, absorption, distribution, metabolism, and excretion come into play. And importantly, this side is guided by rules like Lipinski's Rule of Five and Weber's parameters. Now, this is important. Modern drug discovery isn't about optimizing one side or the other. It's about optimizing both simultaneously. This is known as multi-parameter optimization, or MPO. The most successful drugs exist in the overlap between these two areas. In other words, they bind well and have the right properties to function effectively in the human body. So you can think of it like this. A great drug is not just a strong binder. It's a well-balanced molecule that performs in the real biological environment. And as we move forward, Lipinski's Rule of Five will become a key tool to help us evaluate and predict that balance. If you enjoyed this medicinal chemistry journey, subscribe to the channel and stay connected for more insights into drug design, molecular modeling, and medicinal chemistry research.